Well, hello and welcome. This afternoon in the studio, I've got a special guest with me, Mitch Greenwood. Now, I met Mitch through a mutual friend, and these guys actually used to work at Harley-Davidson together, and that's how we got onto each other. And Mitch has been helping me with my little brand, and he's actually wearing some of my swag today. I've got a little experimental brand called Living the Dream, and Mitch has been doing this sweet artwork for me and simultaneously spotted the podcast and went, geez, love to come and do a bit of that. And I went, absolutely, I'm pretty damn keen to hear your story because the man does some pretty good things. So, Mitch, welcome. I've
Thank you.
just let you know that you come in and we do this hot, so this is live. I have given exemption for potty mouth. That's okay.
Sweet.
Look, as long as it's not, illegal or immoral, it generally it's pretty safe. But Mitch, obviously, I want to talk about your career in, as a designer, as an artist. But where I'd like to start is back when you were a young fella. You're always a creative kid, mate. You're mad on the finger painting. What was it like when you were a young boy?
Chaotic. No, I actually wasn't a really creative kid. I was actually pretty shut in, which my dad did not like because he was very outspoken and driven and sort of very hands-on. So the fact that I was like shut in and constantly playing video games and stuff like that didn't hold too much value in it. So no, how the creative stuff started was actually through my hobby of skateboarding as a young teenager into my early mid 20s, and I got into skateboarding, and obviously I loved everything about like every skateboarder who has ever picked up a board understands that once you pick it up and you're hooked for life. Like you never stop. Even now, I still watch Street League and all that sort of stuff when I can because you just never stop being a skateboarder. And through that, I sort of no one's ever going to pay me for skateboarding because I'm pretty damn useless. But I wanted to see if I can get involved with it where I can, and that sort of kicked me down photography route. And I picked up the camera for a while, played with it, tried to sort of went and studied it too while I was still in high school, and sort of realized in that point, photographers don't get paid shit. Unless you're like super, super famous and super, super good at it, which I wasn't. So I was straight away like, I need something that I could sort of turn into a career that I can actually develop a living off. And Dad was a sign writer, sign box maker. His dad was like line and scrolling and proper sign writing old school ways. And he actually ran a huge, huge business called Greenwood Signs for a long, long time, which I think is still in operation today, but he sold it ages ago to people we don't know. And so I was like, well, I know my way around Photoshop now. Let's see if I can learn graphic design and go down that route, and sort of pick that up and didn't really stop.
So it's actually almost a generational creative thing.
Yeah, from what I've been told, because my granddad died when I was still really young, because the males in my family are notorious for not looking after their bodies. He was quite a talented oil painter, from what I understand. Like he was really good at that, and everyone who's the later generations of my family would always be like, "Your grandfather was a wizard when it comes to oil paintings and signage and stuff." So
that's really cool.
Yeah, I always thought I've never seen any of his works though, because no one had any of them. I think maybe my grandma did, but that's a whole other story to unpack. She was a bit of a Looney Tunes character, and she sort of cut out a few people, but myself included. But yeah, I've never seen one, but everyone kept saying your granddad was a wizard. So I was like, that's sweet.
That's pretty wild. What's his name?
His name was Des Greenwood. Real stone hard type dude, like probably wasn't the best father figure to my dad, and then that rolled on to me as well. So I wouldn't say he was probably the world's top bloke, but from what I understand, he was at least good at what he did.
There you go. If anybody's ever listening to this, Australian?
Yeah, he's Australian.
Thank you. Yeah, track us down. Look at that. So, mate, that's a pretty wild story. So, okay, so there, obviously there's a few stories there, and we don't need to unpack all of those because I guess the one I'm pretty keen on today is yours. So it wasn't necessarily, you were fairly obviously introverted.
As a kid, yeah, I was like still pretty outspoken and energetic, but I didn't really have any wants or needs to be involved in team situations. I was never really that kid. Some kids excel in NRL, AFL, and stuff like team sports of Australia, and they go out and pursue those things, and that's where they learn social skills and stuff like that, right? I tried my hands at those, but never liked them. And that's probably the magic, going back to the source, skateboarding, is you can be whoever you want to be as a skateboarder. You can be the weirdest dude out and you'll still be accepted. You can be black, Asian, all sorts, and you'd still be really welcomed and really accepted. And you can do whatever tricks you want. You can practice all these for months, which is like the basic of the basic. And if you have the energy to show that you're willing to give it your best shot and you're driven and you want to do it, people just accept you. There's no question. There's no care if you're good or not. So that's what sort of glued me into that sort of facility. And funny story is one of my best mates to this day, I don't talk to him as much as I should, but he's if he called me right now, I would say, just stop the podcast because I got to take a call. Was a groomsman at his wedding. The only thing he ever picked on me for was wearing a helmet at the park. And if you're a child, you should wear a helmet at a park. Always wear a helmet at the park. But when I rocked up with my red, BMX Big W helmet, he's just like, I know you, we did karate together. Snap my board. And I was like, what was that for? He's like, don't let me ever catch you wearing a helmet here again. I was just like, okay. Came back the next week and the best mate was like, good, you lost the helmet. But yeah, best mate.
Settle down, Chief.
No, he is a legend though.
That's good.
He's such a good dude.
You just didn't understand, the importance of safety.
Yeah, no. That was not a thing.
That was perhaps lost on him.
Oh no, he's a file. He's since put down the board. He still watches it and stuff, but nowadays he's die-hard family dude, die-hard hunter 4x4 spec. You'd love him.
Yeah, actually. Oh, what I want to know is if he makes his kids wear a helmet.
I don't know.
That's actually the question I'd like to know. So.
His daughter's really young, so I don't think she's at that age, but it could be wrong.
Tell you what, mate, whenever my little kid wants to go there, it's like, champ, you better have that.
Yeah. But I was 13, 14 when I was starting that though. So you're not really a kid anymore.
No.
So it's a bit different. But
yeah, that's a time. So it sounds to me like it was the community of skateboarding, the community identity, that just spoke to you, that resonated to you.
Yeah, 100%, because I could do it by myself. I could do it with friends. And if I didn't feel like hanging out with my friends with that day, but I still felt like skateboarding, I could do it. I didn't need a team to do it.
Well, that's it. You can do it by yourself.
And I didn't need to rely on anyone for it to be successful for me. I could set my own goals and achieve my own goals in my own damn time.
That's pretty cool.
So that's what I always found really amazing about it.
Do you remember how you latched onto skateboarding, the first memory?
Yeah, it was a pro skater called Andrew Reynolds. You've heard of him?
Not really. I don't think so. I haven't made outside time.
Well, he was on pretty much every Tony Hawk pro skater game. Was he? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, because who doesn't want to play skater? But yeah, I remember seeing some clips of him doing this one trick that he's famous for, down these stupid big stair gaps and stuff. Because I was always really tall and skinny, and not so much now. Oh, the metabolism is very much dead. What's it? He was very tall and skinny, and he'd wear like monster-sized shoes. We'd see him do this trick down his stairs. That's laugh. So it's like that's pretty cool. All the way that, and that's sort of the start. And then I started playing with it, got bored, started playing a little bit more, and that was actually when I was finally doing stuff outside on the skateboard. That's when my dad finally went, all right, I'm going to come to do this. And then he hated the wheel noise of the car on the bloody driveway and get up before it.
They're tough to impress.
There's no pleasing.
No, look, there is not, and that's okay. I also think that that's also part of being trying to push them along in your own.
Give them enough room, but then you got to reel them in.
Yeah. There's an art form to that. I haven't figured it out either. So you found skateboarding, identified with that. Did you ever do anything with skateboarding? Like you ever do the paint your own board or any, was there any of that sort of stuff?
There was a few, but they were terrible. Because I didn't really know how to manipulate the mediums and stuff yet.
Yes.
But I definitely did a lot of illustrative graphics in my own time. So my early careers when I first started getting full-time jobs as a designer, for example, my first big brand that I worked for in Australia was actually City Beach. And I would used to catch the train from, I was with my brother at the time, catch the train from the nearest station to my brother's house, which was in Kingston, all the way into the CBD. And that's not an express stop, so I had to catch and stop at every stop and that train ended up like a can of sardines. And I was burning 2 hours a day in travel just on the train. And so I started just illustrating on the train. I'd just draw something the night before, put it on my computer, and then just illustrate it, practice illustrating in my mornings around. And I did some really cool stuff I got Garfield and made him look street as and Cholo and sort of stuff. That was really cool. And just things like that, just playing around, just trying to develop what could have been called the early developments of my illustrative style. But I didn't really stay. I don't know. I was always my early career very doubtful of what I could achieve. So I never fully committed to it. I always dip my toe in the water and be oh, I want to do gold, but try it. Whereas I'm just screw it, I'll try it. If it doesn't work, I can say I tried it. It doesn't matter.
That makes sense. You mentioned Photoshop before. You're self-taught in that, or were you doing it, helping in the family business? How did you even open Photoshop for the first
time? See, Dad ran the show very, very old school, so he'd do a lot of stuff. He'd just do the mock-up, with a friend of his friend had computers, and he'd be this client wants this wording here, do the mock-up for me. And he'd pay him a fee, I want to do the mock-up. He'd charge accordingly, so it's still made money on top of it. The client would approve the artwork, and then he would make the actual boxes, and then his mate would also then cut the vinyls. He'd take it and then just install it all. He didn't really do a lot of the artwork stuff. He did more of the manual stuff. So I didn't really have the opportunity to help him there until it was I would have been useless. I had no idea of any of that what works. When I picked up Photoshop, it's the first time it was a really cool program, and I'm hoping it still runs, and I would recommend anyone in grade 10 to grade 12 to try it, because not only do you get a day off school, but you get training in something that you're genuinely interested in, and that I made friends in that. I experienced new shit every time I went. It was a bridging program, a bridging into uni program, and what they do is they actually give you 1 day a week where you go not to school. The schools in on it, so they know who you are. You go to an elected college where they get you into a program, and not only is that program a lot cheaper because you're still in school, you get a whole day of learning specifically what you want to learn. It sort of gives you the idea of what uni would be what TAFE would be, and that was really rad. Like I got up super early to go early. I'd travel from my house in like a village into that area. That's where the TAFE was at. And I got to play with cameras and Photoshop all day. That was essentially where that sort of started. And then from there, kept adding layers on top, layers on top. It was really sick.
That is really cool. So that was, yeah, okay. So that was a supported learning program or pathways program.
I think the wording was pathways.
Pathways, I think is what it's called. I'm not as familiar with the high school stuff at this point in time.
Oh, dude, do you think I am? But anyone listening who's got kids of that age, I recommend like the school counselor at my school actually presented it to me. He's just like, well, if you want to get a shoe in the door early, you should try this. You'll be paying for it, but it's not that expensive. I recommend it. I pitched it to mum. She's just like, yeah, fine. So yeah, anyone whose school has a guidance counselor to do that, I recommend asking that question, because I would not be where I am today if probably that bloke didn't present that bit of information to me. And most schools don't these days unless the students themselves ask for it, which kind of sucks because it's not like they're trying to help as much as they should.
Yeah, I get that.
But that's a complicated situation.
Yeah, that whole situation is complicated. That sure has become more involved in some primary schools and seeing how schools work and how underfunded they are. And, as primary schools in particular, the whole thing's actually pretty entirely. I've been reasonably shocked.
Yeah. Push that pebble down the snowy hill and watch it get real big real quick.
Yeah.
I don't even have kids and I can sort of see that.
Yeah, it's scary. Look at it. After being 13 pages of budget, like line item, because at least one of the things that we can do at running a business for 14 years is I'm reading P&L all right. And yeah, I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know if I'm as good as enough to get with teachers. The whole thing's, it's actually really, really shocking. It's the future of Australia. And,
And back when I was in high school too, it seemed like the system was more focused on pushing kids into uni everywhere they can, when sometimes it probably wasn't the best option for kids. So, for example, I know a lot of my graduating year obviously went to uni because they were told they have to go, otherwise they're going to be a loser or whatever else. They all got pushed into uni. Most of them didn't even complete that degree. Most of them changed their mind on what they wanted to achieve, which is totally fine. Like, what 18-year-old knows for sure what they want to do with the rest of their lives? Dude, I'm 28 and half the time I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. So it was really strange seeing that. And nowadays when kids at like skate parks would talk to me about it, have you thought that maybe isn't the be all and all? Have you thought that maybe if you don't get the OP you want, you can go to TAFE for like a year and a half and then you can just get into whatever course you want to do? Or in Australia, it's kind of not like the rest of the world. In Australia, I think more value is placed in people with trade backgrounds than academic backgrounds. Like, go to the States and you see a construction worker, and most of the public in the States, speaking with a little bit of ignorance, will probably be like, it's just a construction worker. In Australia, you see a construction worker and you're just like, that guy's a local hero. It's totally different, and it's really rad. So there's almost like very minimal judgment. Hell, even the labourers on work sites are not seen as losers. They're seen as people that are just trying to get by like everyone else.
And that's it, mate. There is a lot of that sort of stuff. I was a teenager in the 90s, a little bit before your time. But it was very much the same. The pathway was doing the rest of your life that we were under that. And I wasn't bright enough to get into it. Dumbest course. So the only pathway for me was through TAFE.
Yeah.
And that was actually a great time. I went to South Bank TAFE, so like you're there at the beach, having shooting, and it's like mates wearing blues every day, having to swim, having gear, and then also learning a few things. But I was the same. I came at the end with an equivalent IP7, which then gave me options. And I also managed to RPM like a yearly uni degree. But, you know, I didn't realise those things were even options, and I was just a guy that wasn't smart enough to get into uni. And the crazy thing now is I actually, I ended up going to Greenwood University. I continued to work with them, and I actually now even sit on an advisory panel for, like, I've helped them review once in the past their Master of Marketing, and I'm involved in the latest review as well. And I find it really funny and glad it was too dumb to get anything now advisors back to a university. And you know, like, the point of that story is you can do it if I flag at some point.
Essentially, there's a thing that I like to sort of preach, more so to myself than anything else, and it's two words. One's a naughty word, and it's legit. Fuck love. Like, there's no such thing. In my personal opinion, there's times where you'll find $20 note walking the dog. That's luck. But if you want to achieve something, you don't achieve it by sitting on the couch looking at the phone all day. You achieve it by trying to do it. Like, you just got to try. I mean, if you try and you don't succeed, at least you did something. At least you weren't bored. At least you weren't, wasting your own time. And you probably didn't waste if it doesn't involve other people's time either. Because at least you tried. Yeah, if you didn't succeed at it, they'll probably be like, oh, well, we still got something out of it. It doesn't matter if it wasn't exactly what we needed.
And that is the greatest lesson. And obviously, your wise inspiring years. Mate, you said you got your first job. City Beach, was that your first graphic design job, or did you just need something else in before that?
No, there was several jobs before that. That was like my first.
That was your first big,
like one that I could sort of beat my chest about.
Mate, let's back it up. Tell me about the day you went first. Where did you even get a start?
Well, after I found skateboarding, right, and I started pursuing graphic design, I got excessively annoying because I got really comfortable with myself. And so I would constantly be in people's faces, loud, obnoxious, but always friendly and approachable. But I was always the dumbest in the room because I would try, like my teachers in TAFE, one of them probably, his name's Ian Thompson, and he's like a sign writer, graphic designer still to this day. He's a legend. He's another motorcycle guy. He was constantly fixing my shit and showing me, like, dude, this is how you meant to do it. Dude, this is how you meant to do it. And, like, it was kind of cool because I was faster than everyone else. I made more mistakes, but I was faster. So I'd always, like, charge ahead and then realize I made 50 million mistakes, fix them all. And then I'd show my mates all my mistakes. So they'd get it through really easy. I was like, yeah, we'll just let Mitchell go first. He's going to fall in all the traps. So, but it was rad. They're all like punk, skater, metalheads, so it was like I fit in so fine. But yeah, they always charge first and then fix their own mistakes from there.
Fantastic.
And it was through there because I tried the hardest I could in TAFE because I loved it. Like, I loved my TAFE experience. It was GCIT in Coomera, like behind Greenwood. So really shout out to them. They're a great facility. They still are a great facility. I went there the other day to actually, like the other month, I went there and spoke to their current design class. So cool. So I've got all the time in the world for that canvas and that sort of structure of learning. Because I was so loud and obnoxious, actually, in the graduating showcase, a bloke came up to me and said, hey, my design is actually leaving on holiday for 4 months. I'm not going to give you a full-time permanent job. But if you could patch that hole while he's away, that's sick. And he's just like, I'll give you the same wage as him, and you can fuck up as much as you want, which I think he regrets saying. And you'll just get all in industry experience, and that was all the way down in Eleanor, like right near Iron Resin, at an MBE there, and they did like an MBE's mailboxes and etc. But he also ran like a little like print facility out of it, and I was mostly doing business cards and flyers and stuff like that. God, I made so many mistakes. I probably cost him money, like a lot of money when I think back of it. And it was like, no wonder he didn't want to talk to me after that. But it was still valuable time spent. 100% would go back and do it again. And then from there, it sort of was like little part-time jobs. And funnily enough, this is where it's in this period in which I met my now new employer. It's so funny. I'm now working for a guy named Boone, and he ran digital a digital assets agency. So they weren't like marketing as such, more like helping people develop their online footprint. And I was like his front end designer at the time. It was like 1-2 days a week, and it was rad. It was like this modern as little office right next to the Yellow Brewery, and we'd see where all the beers would line up, and his brother Simon was the other guy in there, and there were just these two Mongolian Chinese blokes, and they were just really mellow, really fun, and nothing was ever a drama. Like, and we just pumped out work. It was sick. And I also worked for like a furniture slash, like it was a jewel business. One brother ran like a racing simulator company, the other brother ran a furniture company. I worked with them and I helped them do graphic design and marketing elements for both. And that was like the other 3 days a week. But because I had to pay tax on one, losing money, both weren't really paying that great to begin with. But it was a sick experience. And then I eventually got into a full-time role in an agency down the coast. And that was like a churn and burn agency. They sold like little magazine adverts in like real estate folders and medical center folders, and we just did the ads and the covers for those. And I actually made a lot of money there because it was one of those things where if you got a certain amount of jobs done in a week and approved, you get a bonus. And then if you got the most in a month, you'd get another bonus. So I was already quick. So I was like, I'm just going to get quicker. So I just like got really, really quick, and I pumped them out as fast as I can. And I figured, like, look, it's sort of like throwing shit at a wall, seeing what sticks. It was like, everyone's doing maybe 10 jobs a week, right? If I try and do 20 jobs a week, I'm at least going to get 10 approved, which already makes me better than them. And I made bank at that job, actually. I made a lot of bank at that job because it was just, and there were decent bonuses too at the time. That was like before all this crazy COVID inflation. We're talking like 2015. And I'd get like a weekly bonus. I think the weekly bonus that you got the most in a week was like 150. So I was easily getting that like 3 times out of the month. So that's an extra like nearly $500, 450. And then the monthly bonus was double that because it was like a real salesy job. And so I was making easily like an additional $1,000,000 a month just because I was like, just like pumping it out as fast as I
could. This is why I love, asking people and just and listening to people's story, and knowing you as I do, and having, we've done 3 or 4 projects together now. We're probably at that sort of stage, and I've watched the way that you work, and it's so funny as you unpack these things and share them with me, and I can sort of see, because you are very fast, you are very talented. The fact that you freehand sketch first and then you go to a design is exactly what you talked about. Like how you were on the train and you do the sketches, and that's still the way that you work when you're doing.
Well, see, it's easy for me. It's there's 2 reasons why I do that. One of the reasons I was actually shown by the dealer principal at Harley when I was working with our mutual friend John. One of the reasons is like a communications reason, which I've learned from that man. His name's Steve Schilling. He's a genius, and anyone who's worked for him says the same. He's a hard, short, like very, very fair. And if I didn't work for him, I only worked for him 1 day out of the week for like 3 or 4 months, and that was enough for me to be like Steve's the fucking boss. Like, yeah, he was my boss, but he is the boss. And his dealership just won dealership. So, and when he was at Gold Coast won dealership. There's a freaking reason for that.
That's got skills.
Yeah, he's the boss. And the other reason for that is because it's easier to fix a sketch than it is to fix an illustration that's already been outlined, been filled with color, and all that stuff. I'm not going to pitch you a design that looks one way, and you're just like, oh, actually, this little element here, go there, because this is my product, and this is the special part of my product, so that in there.
Speed and efficiency.
Exactly. So if I draw a sketch and it doesn't have that product, you're like, oh, this is all sweet, but I just need this one little item here to look like this for this reason. Oh yeah, cool. Rubber, redraw. Are you happy with this now? Yeah, sweet. Proceed. And then it's outlined, so then it's like a clearer version of the sketch. You're gonna repitch it. Hey, is this still on track? You still happy? Most of the time it's yes. And then from there, fill effects and the crazy stuff. And sometimes people have a little bit of input there, and they'll be like, oh, I just want a few colors change, or I want a bit of texture here, type of thing. Usually just all minor stuff to help create depth and add a little bit of flair to certain areas. But outside of that, no, it's usually pretty smooth. So like, usually I get the most changes in the sketch and the color at the end. And most of the jobs I've had over, like from a freelance perspective, over the last 2-3 years, I've always had next to no changes because of the process of change. And that's not saying that my process is the perfect one, the be all end all for all designs, but it works really well for me and my clients, so I'm not going to change that anytime soon.
The last thing you want is to present a proof and then go, oh, we thought about this. I'm like, no. Like, those last
it's a nightmare. I've made that mistake in my early careers a heap of times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it sucks. And because obviously they're the client and we've presented sort of a project in a certain way and you've done all the hard stuff, it's not really fair for you as the business person to then slap an additional bill to them because
I don't argue with any of that. Now, hilarious thing, still not even up to your job as a coach. So you're working multiple jobs.
Yeah, I got the energy. Then I threw my hat in the ring on Seek to City Beach, got that job. And then that's when I was straight on the train, going to and from Logan to Brisbane every day. And that job, at first I thought it was dream come true, because it was like, oh, went to City Beach, they did skateboarding, they did surfing, they did motocross at the time, it was still really huge. And I was like, oh yeah, this is freaking cool. And then I saw the more corporate world of it all. And ask me back then and I'd be like, oh, corporate's okay, like it's part of the world we live in. But ask me today, corporate sucks. Like corporate sucks. Like you can work for big businesses and all that sort of stuff, and there's people out there that are conditioned and know how to navigate those fields. But it's a very dark slippery slope if you're not mentally prepared for it, and you can as well. And I saw this first at City Beach, and I wasn't the biggest fan of my time there. I actually got fired. And it's not because I couldn't do the job, it's because I was constantly frustrated and I was constantly sort of unintentionally projecting a negative energy because of how much pressure I was putting on myself to try and succeed in that role. Because I thought if I didn't succeed in that role, I'd be losing. And that's just not true. Because I was there for about 6 months and it was a really shit 6 months. And then in future times when I sort of unpacked my experience of that job and role, I was like, you know what, I was probably not the best fit for that business because it was not that great a place to work with. Like the hierarchy, all really money-driven, selfish people, and the business was very money-driven and selfish. And yeah, businesses are in business to make money. I get that, but there is a fine line when you hire those types of people, the type of energy and pretense it sets for the entire time in the office. And it was really, really negative. And hopefully it's not that way now because I can't speak for it now because I was like 2015. So we're going back 8 years. So it's probably a completely different machine now. But at the time, that's what it was. So I never connected with that. I've always been a bit, and probably still, this is probably where still is I always had the mentality that if you were given birth like someone gave birth to you, you're eventually going to end up in a box. It's to my understanding that everyone's on the same plane. Yeah, people have different wins and different experiences, but you're still on the same plane. And therefore, I will always treat others the way I wish to be treated. And that's the bare standard, in my opinion. But in the corporate world, that don't matter for shit. Not to be a negative Nancy.
Man, the problem is you're 100% right. Like, I had a very similar story, and I thought it's very much a tale of don't meet your heroes. Like, I ended up, in some very big corporate, massive global international brands that I've worked with over the years. And I had the identical experience where, initially it was kind of cool, and but again, once that facade wore off,
when people stopped,
and you got to see people for who they were, what they cared about, and how much they just don't give a fuck about people.
No,
and that was like the backstabbing, and all the horrible things.
Dude, it's taken me until now to realize that that's how people behave and fully comprehend, because I spent so long, and this is probably a mistake of my person, I spent so long pretending and acting as if everyone has the same moral values as me, and that's just not true. People genuinely do not give a shit, and even less so in bigger corporate life.
That's correct. Well, they're not, mate. And those places are get killed. And I found myself having to be someone that I didn't want to be. And I guess I see that in you. Hopefully, it's not that here as well. Like, it's just not what I am. I want to be exceptional at what I do, but I never want to be that sort of human.
No,
like, just be kind.
To me,
be nice to people.
To me, like, if I don't respond to a mate's message like within an hour, 2 hours, I feel like a piece of shit. So stabbing someone in the back just to fight for my own job or to better myself within my own job doesn't suit me. And if you're the type of person that does that, yeah, cool. Know that I hate you.
As you figure these things out, you're figuring these things out 10 or 12 years before I do. Because, I don't know, I give people the benefit of the doubt, until they prove me otherwise. And the problem is I'm probably actually, I might let them prove me otherwise two or three times because I'm an idiot. But, yeah, I remove those sort of people from my world now, and same even with clients. Like, if you're a dickhead, I don't want to work with you. And I'm super happy to say that, because if we don't vibe, that's okay. Like, there's a billion other people that do what I do.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where in my early freelance career, so starting at that around that same point, like City Beach era for me, I learned that same sort of thing as well. Like, I would constantly, whatever client came in, I felt like I needed to solve every problem, be endlessly sort of giving to their needs, when most of the time they're just there to get what they can out of you. Fuck you after that.
And people will take advantage of your kindness. And I do find that, and probably again, even to this day, it probably takes me longer than I'm prepared to admit to realise that I've been taken for a ride.
Yeah, it sucks, but when you realise it and you sort of didn't see it coming, it's hard.
I made a promise to myself that, you know, all I guess I ever wanted to do is to make this success of myself. You know, the definition of that has actually changed a fair bit as what I consider a success, you know, in that money grubbing, rank chasing era of corporate. You know, what I value as success is very different to what I value as success now. And, you know, what I value as success now is being able to choose the people I work with, choose the people I spend my days with, choose to not wear shoes. You know, like, you know, it's, I don't even know what day it is. What day is it? Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, it's Tight-Ass Tuesday.
Yeah, Tight-Ass Tuesday. And, like, I'm in at work for the first time today in shorts, and you know, just keep my Crocs off to be extra comfortable. And the other reason I'm here today is to chat to you. I'm like, man, that's a pretty good day. You know,
Yeah.
I work from wherever I want, whenever I want. And to me, today, that is success. Whereas back then it was money, house, cars, you know, flash, trying to make it look, you know, the trappings of success. Because I read something recently, said this to my wife today. I'd rather be wealthy and look poor than look wealthy and be poor.
Mm.
And that's something that I didn't, that took me a real long time to understand. That, you know, I thought you needed to have the cool car and the flat for people to take you seriously. Whereas now, you know, you see some of the trash that I drive. Like,
dude, it's not trash.
Not my Land Cruiser, that one's killing. But, like, you know, my Commodore Butte and stuff. Like, I just don't care. And if people judge me on that, that's a great indicator that they're probably not the sort of person I enjoy spending time with. So I actually find it's actually a really good way to dust people out of the way, the way that people treat you.
100%. And if they judge you, I mean, I'm terrible for it. Anyone, like, ask my chick, she will go to breakfast and I'll be like judging what everyone's wearing, like, because I'm a prick like that. But, like, if they came to me and said, hey, where's the directions to this and that, I'll be like, yeah, you just go this way, it's all that way. But as soon as they go, just see what they're wearing.
But look, that's to yourself. That's not the way.
I keep that to myself. Yeah. But I'll always treat them the way I wish to be treated.
That's also deep observation.
Yeah. And it's a terrible thing. And I love people watching.
Oh man, I love people watching too.
It's terrible, but
it's cool. People are fascinated. People are endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, it's why I love doing this. People are fascinating, and the more you talk to people, the more you get to know people, the more you get past that facade, interestingly enough, and the more you get to know the person. Like, that's to me where the magic is. You know, when I fucking hate going on. What do you do? How do you work? Oh, you're so cool. I'm like, oh man, like, you know,
Suit, 1, 2, 3, 4. I bet you these guys all have the same hobbies, all went to the same private schools, and all comparing to each other.
Yes. And look, I can say that because I went to one of those private schools. So, you know, I've seen a lot of clones of each other.
It happens.
I had a fair bit of programming time. And you know,
I've got a phrase for it, and I got it from one of my favorite bands. It's life through Western eyes.
Which band?
They're called Stick to Your Guns.
Okay.
They're from Orange County, Cali.
Ooh.
They're like a American punk hardcore band.
Yeah.
And I like that style of music, and I like early '90s rap as well, because if you actually like write down the lyrics of bands in that group versus rappers from that time, you'll see a lot of crossover.
Yeah, it's good storytelling.
So much crossover.
That's a year. You got to remember, I was a teenager then.
So
when that was being made, you know, we had literally, it was the craziest time. Like that 93, 94, when you had like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, you know, Metallica doing ridiculous things. Then also bands like Terror. Like, it was just the wildest.
And then you got your rap groups like and then solo artists that came out of that, like Tupac, Biggie,
and then the
Ice
start of
Cube.
Jay-Z in the late 90s.
Exactly.
Like, it just kept it.
It's this. You've almost
that period of time.
So similar to songwriting. It's very fun.
This is why I'm ecstatic about like the 80s and 90s. Is like they're obviously I grew up somewhat tumbling down with it, but like I also saw that as a time of a lot of really beautiful design. I saw it as a time of like fairly unbridled creativity in a lot of things. There was a lot. I mean, you look at some of the Japanese cars from the 90s as well, like 2J Supers and NSX.
Dude, have you seen the original Toyota logo?
I don't know if I have.
Google that shit.
Google that shit. See, I don't have someone to bring it up for me.
Dude, it's so insane.
Original Toyota.
It's like a rising sun with like characters in it.
Yeah.
And I found this out working as a sign writer.
Really?
It's insane. See, that's it there.
This one here?
Yeah, that one there. That's the original Toyota logo.
Okay, I don't know if you can see this on my screen. I have a screen share cool thing, but yeah, that is so cool.
Dude, it's so sick. We had I was working as a sign shop. In a sign shop at the time, as a designer, machine operator, and this is 2 jobs after City Beach, so we're jumping a bit ahead again in time. And in that job, the owner was one of the owners was pretty hooked up in like the motorcycle and vintage car scene, and we had this guy come in with the old hella curved body Land Cruiser, and he skied it. It had these massive tires on it. This thing was a beast. It was like twin turboed as well. It's a trophy car.
That's ridiculous.
And he had this like DIY framed canopy, and on top of it, we put this big thing of I forget what it's called, but it's essentially signboard. We printed a big OG Toyota logo on it, and it was like the circle inside a big rising sun. The thing was sick. That's like so cool. And I didn't even know. I'm just like, what? I was printing it. I'm just like, what is this? And the other boss came in. I'm just Toyota. I'm just like, what? Yeah. And it's so much cooler than the cowboy hat, dude. I'm not even kidding. In my opinion, that's because I love Japanese art.
Oh, but the point of that whole story being how fantastic that mural was. And I do think that a big part of the reason that so much of that stuff was fantastic was, the internet was still only brand new. I had my first email address in 1998. So, like, we were still sort of pre...
Do you want to know how old I was in that?
I can't really do the math. Were you negative?
I was 4.
You were 4. Okay, so you weren't really... you went down with the tech at that time. But, like, I was really into that stuff, and I thought that was weird. And, like, how we've got, like, group messaging now, what we will do. So my friends were at UQ, which is weird. They all had university email addresses. My buddy Pete is he's like my first best friend from, like, grade 1, and he and I, he's still my boy, and, our businesses do work together these days, which is crazy. But he had another email address, so he gave me his UQ one. My first email address was s366777@uq.edu.au. And we would sit there and, like, you do a reply all, because, like, I'd never seen an email before. And we're all sitting there going, reply all. There's, like, 10 of us on this email group going, oh my God, how cool is this? Send. And then you'd sit there, like, refreshing, waiting for somebody to send an email back. And they're like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And they're like, and send it again. Like, this is, like, before AIM, MSN, AOL, chat rooms, like, before all that stuff, we're all sitting there laughing, going, oh man, this is awesome. Like, we also would even go, so we'd have LAN parties. I would a 10-port Ethernet splitter thing, and I figured out how to work that. And we would take, like, at that stage, like, mum and dad's computer, because you'd have the computer in the lounge room where everybody could use it, because you only had one family computer. And I'd throw it all in the car, and we'd go to, in particular, Pete's house, and we'd put, like, up to 10 computers together, and we'd have our own LAN parties every weekend. Like, this is how I learned most of my computer stuff. It was like I was building them, hooking them together, because we're like, oh man, you can make these bloody things talk to each other. You just got to, like, put the thing in the thing and make the things connect. And, like, we're playing all these games, and we're, like, just, like, LAN party all weekend before. LAN party wasn't even a thing. We didn't even know that what we were doing was...
You're just being kids.
Yeah, we just thought it was wicked.
Yeah.
This is so cool, because, you'd have your tower, and then the monitors were, like, those huge...
So it's like
an old school TV.
It's like the equivalent if you have the Game Boy color in your name, having a game with color, chords that connect each other. Yeah.
Yeah, like
The equivalent of that, but on a bigger scale.
On a much bigger scale.
Because the first time I ever did that as a kid.
Yeah, man, But like again, we were so from where we are now, where like I was doing AI copywriting and I wrote an article in 7 minutes from sitting down at my computer to posting it online. Wrote an 800-word article. So, and I think about from where we were then to this time. So how different the speed of information was, and how slow it would take things to filter through, and how slow it was for like new stuff to get to you. So when you heard something that blew your mind, like it was really significant because you didn't hear 1,000 things that week that blew your mind.
Yeah.
Like it was like, holy shit, did you hear this one album? Oh, like Rage Against the Machine as well. Holy crap. This is all this 90s stuff. And you're like, oh man, killing it the name of that. And
you lose your shit.
Yeah, you lose your shit. Like everybody loses your shit. It's just the coolest stuff.
Whereas now you got stuff.
Man, it was so slow and it was so hard to get it. And like you're recording stuff on off the radio onto a tape, and to get DJ and be like, "Hey, that was
I never did that, but I heard my brothers doing that.
It's because you're too young. And then there were the early days of the internet as well, where we were like sailing the pirate ship, and we had like LimeWire and stuff.
Oh,
so you're like downloading, but like
I use LimeWire.
Dude, a 2 megabyte, because I remember the first time I saw MP3. So we'd get your album, and this was before they had protections on them, and then you'd get a ripper. So you put the CD in the computer, rip the stuff off, and make your MP3s. So they didn't exist. So we would you'd pull it off as a wave and compress it down to an MP3. And I remember the first time somebody showed me an MP3, and they're like, "Holy shit, man, you can make it like 2 meg." Because downloading 2 meg would take like 8 hours. So like one song
totally different thing,
would take like 8 hours to download. I remember driving around in the car with a computer, and we had the computer then plugged in. You'd put a cassette tape in, and you had the headphone port. So we were like playing MP3s through a tape into a tape player into the car. And again, you didn't realize what we were doing at the time because we're not smart enough to do that. We were like, hey, just make that thing talk to that thing, and then that'll be hilarious because sound systems and stuff. But like that was like early advent of those sorts of things. And again, only stuff that you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that's actually where everything went. We were just like, that's a whole computer in the car.
That sounded like it would have been so much fun.
It was so much fun. And the other weird thing is there's no proof of any of this. Like there's no photos, there's nothing. Because
different time.
Man, it was a different time. I've got my first camera here. This is my first digital camera. My mum and dad indulged me for my 21st birthday. Is a Kodak DX3900 digital camera with a whopping 3.1 megapixels. And if you take a look inside, I reckon this might be here. Oh, it is. I wonder if it's a big card. There we go.
Monster size.
Monster size. So this is a CF card, which you actually still use today, which I believe it. But this bad boy was a phenomenal size. I couldn't believe they could make them this big. 256 megabytes.
Whereas now that's like nothing.
Well, I've got a Canon 1DX, and let's put it this way, I couldn't put one photo on this.
I know. You couldn't do anything.
But this was a monster because the card that it came with was a Kodak CF card, and it was 8 megabytes, and it could hold 30 photographs.
That's insane.
So, yeah. I was always into the tech. Always into it. You're drawn to these things.
Yeah,
you're drawn to these things. But, mate, you've left City Beach unceremoniously. City Beach.
Yeah, it wasn't the best.
And you sort of jumped around after that? Or?
No, I actually got kind of lucky. And this is kind of where, yes, I just said the corporate sucks, but it comes back to the staff. It always comes back to the upper management and the lower management staff. If they're sort of soulless money-making machines, you're going to have a soulless money-making business, right? So I took maybe a month and a bit off of working because I'm at work. went to New Zealand holiday because that's what you do in the early 20s. It was a amazing time. I don't know why I choose like beautiful country.
Place.
I actually got a job at Ladbrokes, and I was there for 3 years, and it was amazing. Like it was an amazing business to work for. Like I was just looked after. They also got it. They paid me pretty well. They would do all sorts of big corporate lunches and the occasional event and Christmas party as well.
Mate, there's good money in gambling.
Would you believe there's money in gambling?
I'm shocked and horrified.
Yeah. And I left there because I wanted to change. But I was there for 3 years, and I actually recently interviewed for them when I was looking for a new job after leaving my last sort of corporate job. It was still, for the most part, the same. It's just they evolved with COVID and now most of their stuff work from home and all this other stuff. And it's still, for the most part, the same business. There's still like sports fans and stuff like that. But there are sort of all sorts of things. Like my manager at the time taught me about how to effectively work in a team. And it sort of comes down to if your shit's organised and you file stuff correctly, it's going to make it a lot easier for your team. I learned basic animation and video editing there. I learned an understanding of sort of HTML. I was a lot better on it when I was there because I was learning it every day. Don't ask me too much about it now. I can probably navigate it, but that's about it. But I learned a lot of really core essential skills from it. That was a really good place to work. And from the outside looking in, it still appears to be that way. But they got sort of brought up by a group called Entain now. So they're not called Ladbrokes anymore, even though they still put out there. I think the general business is called Entain. But yeah, from what I've seen, it's still a really bad place to work.
See, that's cool because I've heard it, seen many times. People don't leave a company, they leave a boss.
Yeah.
If you've got a crappy manager, like that just ruins your life.
So, 100%. It's the worst.
And that's why people quit, because manager is usually a tyrant or a moron, or a micromanager, or a moron. Generally a moron.
Yeah. And it's from there that I got pigeonholed a little bit because I was really quick and I was young. I think I was like 22, 23. So I got kind of pigeonholed into the jobs that took a lot of time and were really annoying to do because like I didn't really care that much because I was just like I couldn't get it done and I was really fast with them. So and I sort of got over that, and that's probably more the reason why I left, is because I just wanted to mix shit up a little bit. And I got and that's where I got into a job at a sign shop called Bigfoot Signs in Murray, and I'm still friends with the owners and who was the apprentice at the time that still worked there. And you know, if I ever need stickers and stuff done, that's usually who I call. And I learned some fucking pretty essential skills there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was. That place was interesting. Like it took me. I think the biggest challenge for me was trying to figure out how the bosses worked, because I feel like maybe at the time I was too personally sensitive. So I took a lot of what one of the bosses said to heart, and he's a nice dude. He's a hard ass, I would say, a little bit of a hard ass, but he's overall, I would say, a really good dude. So I rubbed him the wrong way a couple of times, and because he would then turn the hard ass hat on and come at me a little bit, it sort of rubbed me the wrong way, and then I rubbed him the wrong way. And it wasn't until I figured out how he worked, and then I worked on my own skill level, that we started working really harmoniously. And you know, I learned really bad skills there, like how to apply big signage to cars. Second day there, I was actually like, "We're a sign rider short, so you're going up this boom lift to drill holes in the side of the building." I was like, "Sweet." and that was really fun. And yeah, still friends with pretty much everyone who worked with me when I was there today. And I talk to them occasionally. And yeah, it was fun because
It's real cool.
you cut your own stickers on the plotter, and every now and then, if there's like a little bit of media left over, you go, "Hey, I'll rip this up, recommend sticker, is that okay?" So it's like, yeah, if you throw it in with an umbrella, just sort of, so he gets his money worth out of his
Fair
materials,
enough.
which
Mate,
is totally fair.
Mate, that's running a business.
100%. And I just learned some really crucial like artwork developing skills there, and it was it was never boring to work there. Like you'd have your stressful days, but for the most part, it was never boring because there was always something to do. Like even when the business itself was slow, you could service the machines and clean up the workshop and try and find a way to make everyone's life a little bit easier. So it was always a really sort of stimulating place to work.
It's interesting how, like, you obviously you've learned your fundamentals, you've learned how to do your job, but then it's actually been finessing the soft skills.
Yeah,
stuff.
Because I didn't do that as a kid, and that was the crux. So I've always felt, for the most part, that I've been genuinely misunderstood. But that's because there was a little bit of me not wanting to understand people. And sure, you can be misunderstood, but if you learn how to communicate when you've been misunderstood, you can probably fix the problem. And that was a skill that took me a long time to develop. I'm still developing it today. Like it's something that I think people constantly need to sort of sharpen that knife a little bit.
Right. That's the only race you're running, is to be better than you were.
100%. And yeah, I learned some really great skills, and that from that job is when I then started working. I was at the sign shop for just short of 2 years, and I was living in Tarragindi India at the time, right across from you. Didn't even know.
Crazy. Yeah, this is actually the wild part of this story. We were like, basically neighbours.
Yeah.
Like 3 houses apart or something stupid.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'd walk my dog every morning and I'd see your house that you're currently living in now getting rebuilt. And I'd walk past and I was like, that's fucking cool Honda in there. It's got a fucking old cruiser. That's sick. Just like chill out. And I didn't even know.
This is the funniest part. I bought a 1979 Honda XLS 185 because I got this thing for old trail bikes as well, and one popped up on Gumtree. I remember just nudging my wife and going, "Go on, mate, what about?" And I took the ute, and then I came home with a motorbike that was buggered and like totally needed to be rebuilt. And I spent months putting this thing back together.
Still the coolest thing out.
And ridiculously, so I'm like working in the garage, and then this dude's been walking past and has actually seen me building this bike. And then we somehow our paths managed to cross. It's just that is the wildest story.
It's crazy.
Sorry, I've totally jumped in and stolen the thunder.
No,
so
it's fine.
you're living in Tarragindi, but you're working at Harley-Davidson. This was an area I was pretty interested to jump into, because going into that brand, like, tell me about that, what that was like.
So that role changed me as a person completely. Like, not only did I learn a crazy amount of essential skills in which I use every freaking day to day, but it just changed my life. Like, I always was interested in bikes. My dad was a Harley guy, my brothers were dirt bike guys. I've always been interested in bikes, but because of how shut off I was as a kid, I never really tried them. I was always really scared to try them. And had a quad bike as a kid, but that doesn't really count. So the group, it was actually for Motorcycle Holdings, right? It wasn't directly Harley, but I was working for Motorcycle Holdings on only their Harley part of the business. So most of the dealerships between Sunshine Coast and Melbourne, there's like a handful of privately owned dealerships like Gas and stuff, but most of the group ones in that range, outside of like Harley and Gas were Motorcycle Holdings, and those were the dealerships I worked for. My role there was actually graphic designer, marketing, coordinator, and I had one boss there who taught me a lot of skills, he was a bit of a dick, but he did, like, hats to him as much as I think he's a dick. He taught me a lot of really valuable skills, and that was like how to communicate, how to deal with confrontation, how to work in teams where you don't really like everyone and sort of roll with it. And it's those skills that he taught me that are invaluable. So now, whenever there's a bit of confrontation, I'm never scared of it. I love confrontation. Give me a challenge, I'll take it. And that's because of how comfortable he made me in areas of confrontation. Because I was dealing principles down in Canberra and Melbourne and and dealing with principles in Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast at the same time, and doing crazy amounts of communications with all sorts of crazy people. There was a few dealer principles that I was genuinely scared of because you called them and they'd be like, "What do you fucking want?" I'm like, I just want to help you with it's fine. Send it.
Dealer principles can be a whole other breed.
They were crazy. Most of the time they're totally chill, like they don't care, but it's the way that they kind of have to be and the way they roll their personality into the people that they have to be that can make them seem scary.
It's a brutal business.
Yeah, one dealer principal, I'll leave his name out. He was genuinely terrifying. And that's because when you call them up, you're like, "What do you fucking want?" Straight away, you're terrified. He was like the type of dude that demanded full attention, full respect at all times, because otherwise you'd think he'd kick off. And he actually sent me an email on my last day saying, "You did a great job. Thank you." And I was like, "Oh shit."
That's cool.
It was really cool. And then other ones would be super mellow, like the guy who ran the Canberra store. He was like a Canadian fella. He was so mellow, like you could never upset him. You'd call him and he'd be like, "Hey, what's going on, brother? How you doing?" He was
Legend.
like, "What's up?" "Yeah, not bad. What's the weather like down there?" "Oh man, it's always cold and raining." But we're here to sell motorcycles, man, so it's all good.
Cool, dude.
It's like they was so chill. So like the polar opposite of the other guy. And then you'd have one dude who'd call you after hours and he'd be like, "Mitch in the morning, how you doing?" And it was like, "It's actually like 7 o'clock at night, mate. What do you want?" It's like, "Can you help me with this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can help you with it, but can I wait till tomorrow?" "Yeah, man, it's all good." So it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy.
That's a lot of personalities. And once again, it sounds like a lot more soft skills. And how long were you with Harley? How long were much like the hobbies?
I think like just over a year and a half. And that was the crazy thing. That's like when COVID kicked off, it was insane. So I finally get this really rad job, all sort of stuff, and they actually did their best to help me out absolutely where I could as a business. So anyone who works for a lot of people in the industry think them as like this scary corporate overlord business, and yes, they kind of are. But if you're a decent worker and you ask for help, they may not be able to fully help you as much as you want, but they will help you to a degree. So, how's this for a crazy couple of weeks work? So, I just started my job with motorcycle helmets in the Harley department. COVID started to creep into the country. Next thing I know, I'm getting called up to the principal's office. Shit, it's the wrong email, the wrong person, I'm getting chewed out. And it actually sat down this way. Half our dealerships are going to and guess what? They're probably going to do the same thing. So you can't come back in. Most of you guys are getting and I was like, oh shit. And I was kind of shocked. I wasn't really bummed out because like it's sort of just a business doing what a business does, and that's try and survive something that could have lasted 10 years. You don't know how long that shit would have lasted. So they laid it to me pretty clear, and it's like it's nothing to do with your ability. We like you, but it's just we've been told by our superiors to tell you. So I'm like, this is what it is, man. Sweet. Left, and during that time, I was not like having the best of runs with my partner at the time, so we ended up splitting up. And then in our area, there was actually a few break-ins. So my dog actually got baited, and it cost me $5,000 to get a big chunk of bone cut out of her stomach because some dude tried to rob my house all in the 1 week. Thank God the unemployment sort of extent only lasted like a week and a half, because then my old manager Harley called me and says like, "Hey man, that job keeps me, you can apply it. So we can get you back for like 3 days if you're interested." I was just like, yeah, I'm interested. And I worked those 3 days, and I'm still trying to deal with like, the breakup, and the dog, and all that stuff. And eventually, also, actually need a full-time wage. It's like, look, dude, I need a full-time wage. I can't survive on these 3 days. And so it's like, I'll poke around, see what I can find. And this is a guy who I think at the time probably didn't like me that much, and he still wanted to play it. And he approached motorcycle holding to my way to get my motorcycle license for free. So I got that for free, and I bought a DRZ with what little money I had left to try and not use the ute, so that way I could travel less expensive. I was even thinking about selling the ute to try and minimize my overheads. And then he reached around within the Harley group a bit, and one dealer principal was like, I'm 2 sales staff down, so if I can get an extra pair of hands 1 or 2 days a week, that'd be great. So he's just like, would you be a shit kicker at this dealership and, better learn your product that you're trying to market anyway, and, get an extra wage? I was like, yeah, sign me up. Sign me up. I was there like that week. It was insane. And I knew very little. That was made very clear to me very quickly. I knew very little. But, the staff there educated me as best they could, and that's where I met John Steve. And John I didn't really have to deal with a lot because he was
the money man.
He was the money man, and I didn't really have to deal with that. But Steve, and again, most of what I do today to help me with like communicating with clients, selling myself to clients, doing all that stuff was taught to me by Steve. And like, he may not like me now, he doesn't really talk to me. I don't care. I'll still give that guy 10,000% of my respected time if he demanded it of me because of what it showed. And he taught me how to sell a motorcycle. I wasn't legally allowed to sell one because I didn't have a sales license, but he showed me how to present a customer with options, qualify them, get their information, all willingly. If you follow his the process he trained you in, you'd be surprised how bulletproof it was if people would just open up to you. And then you'd learn stuff from them, and you'd sort of make friends with them, and just grow as a person really quickly in that type of role. Then next thing you know, they're just like, well, I want to try this back out. It's like, cool. I'll hook you up with this sales guy. His name's like Tim or Malcolm or whoever was working at the time. He's going to take you on a test ride. I'll get all the paperwork sorted. You just hang out with my man for a little bit, and then they'd go on a test ride. They'd come back, and then the sales guy would pretty much almost always close it off because I'd have everything written down in a little form. I'd give it to the sales guy as I pitched it to him for the test ride, and then the sales guy was like, "Sweet, I've got everything I need to close this." And it's those people skills and those asking the right questions at the right time and getting all the information that you need from your customer that was invaluable. And I learned that all from Steve. I made a mistake one time Just, I spent all the time like getting to know a customer and asking him what he wanted, and I didn't give his contact details. Steve watched me fucking not give his details. He comes up to me. What's his name? It's like so-and-so. Didn't get their contact details. I was just fucking terrified, like instantly. I was like, oh shit. And then from there, I've never made that mistake ever again. And I've seen him like wrap his other salesmen proper on the wrist for doing like similar things. Like, around type shit. He was always really fair, and he would always help absolutely everywhere he can. But it was pretty brutal when the mistake was made.
But he's smart enough to let you make that mistake.
Oh, 100%.
He would allow you to fuck up and then point it out, so he'd actually let it play out because they're lessons you don't forget. That's actually very intelligent teaching.
Yeah. I mean, it was different for me because I wasn't a full-time sales guy. So it was totally different. It's like I only had the fun part of the job, but I learned so much in that time, and it's invaluable.
It's fortunate, mate, because interestingly, I actually think they're really important skills for any artist or creative or designer. Because if you don't know how to sell, if you don't know how to qualify, if you don't know like those basic skills of salesmanship, you will always struggle as an
artist. 100%, because you got to. Yes, there's a level of degree they're coming to you because the client can't do it themselves. But if you and and don't sound sure of what you're doing, which is what a mistake I made in my early career, very early on, they don't want to spend their money with you because they don't. There's no reassurance of return on investment. You know what I mean? So if you go to an artist that's probably not as good, and they're confident, they're calm, they say, yeah, you'll get this on this date, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Oh, you need this, and this. All right, sweet. Why do you need this? That's why you need them, because of X, Y, Z. All right, sweet. I can get this job done for you pretty quickly. Versus the artist who's incredibly talented, right? And they're like, yeah, I can do it for you. Yeah, I'll get it back to you. I don't know when, but I can. I'm just giving you some room on it. And they don't really have any, what I like to call, control of the job. Yeah, of course, they're not going to spend their money with you because they're not confident that you're going to be able to do it.
Correct. And your time at Labrooks, people are running back, they only want to back ashore then.
Oh, 100%. And that's, yeah.
So your time at Motorcycle Holdings, because I'm interested about where you went after this as well.
Mm.
So with Motorcycle Holdings, you've got your license, you're doing an extra 2 days a week. When you actually get your first Harley, because mate, you look like you're made for it.
Yeah, I was a very naughty boy. So
we probably
I left. I left Motorcycle Holdings because of I was struggling with myself. I was going through a lot of personal development stuff that I wasn't fully handling good. So I decided to leave because it ended up getting to the point where COVID got good again, and I was back in the office 5 days a week. But at the same time, Steve didn't want to let go because of how much I was sort of helping, and he saw how much joy I got when I was helping him. Because I got a little kick if I could qualify a customer all the way through, hand it to a salesman on a silver platter, even though I wasn't getting any commission because I wasn't legally allowed to. There was something so satisfying in that because I'm just like, fuck yes, I just got my homeboy like XYZ amount of money, and I've made that customer really happy. That's a fucking win, That was so satisfying. So I think Steve saw that in me, and that's why he didn't really want to let me go. If I wanted a break, he'd give it to me. But if I could work, I worked. And I think that only having one day off a week and busting my ass 9 to 5, and then busting my ass again on Saturday I was not good. I would say at my core, I probably wasn't a good person at that time because I was really destroying myself internally. So I threw my hat in the ring of a place called Jetpilot, and they took me on. It was really rad, and pretty much like a month after starting my time at Jetpilot, I did up my dirt bike, sold it real quick, bought a Sportstar, totally illegal. I was not licensed to ride it, and I rode it for like a year and a half. And
Allegedly.
allegedly, and I even souped it up to like nearly 100 horsepower.
Jesus.
So I really did up this Sportster.
But luckily, you just kept it on display in your garage.
Yes, 100%. I never rode it.
No, you never would have done.
Never
That would be so
rode it.
irresponsible.
That was do not do that.
No, but they're a wonderful piece of art. You can have them in the entryway business. So I totally understand what
I did that completely. I completely did that.
Definitely. Okay, so then you got a bloody license at some point, I hope.
Yes, once I got the license, I was going to I loved it.
Because they're wicked, man.
Oh, and
my twin.
My Sportster was sick.
They're a cool bike, actually. They're underrated, I think.
Oh,
the gearbox is wild too.
Dude,
you can just chuck them around.
Do not say that to any die-hard Harley guy, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a thing in Australia
cool,
that hate it.
Yeah.
They're called skirters.
Yeah, it was alright, but I'm like, this is sick. Like, you can really push it. You can ride it kind of like a sports bike.
Yes. Dude, tell me about it. Yeah. They're designed, like, they're still heavy for a bike. They're a heavy thing. Harley's always heavy. Yeah. Anyone who says they got a light Harley is fucking tripping. These things are built so ergonomically. They're not the best power-wise yet because they're
pretty slow,
and they're not sort of like that flashy. But reliability, yeah, I think the best engine is made to that point. You know, I can't speak for the new internally cool ones that they've brought out, which I heard are absolute monsters. I think to this day are like the most reliable and sort of reliability-wise the best engine you can get because like they just don't break. Like I've never heard of anyone saying that they've got a Sportster that's had genuine engine problems.
Well, you can see it off the satellites as well. Like this, you see like the old ones,
yeah, and genuinely, you do the top end on them, and they're sweet. Again, it's like a whole new bike, right? So I've never heard of people having genuine engine problems with them. Little things like, you know, like bolts, general wear and tear stuff, getting tired and breaking. Yeah, that happens in every vehicle.
Anything.
I've never heard of anyone having genuine engine problems. Mm-hmm. And I did not have a single problem with mine, and I treated it. I kept it clean and I serviced it and I did all the general maintenance stuff on time and all that stuff. But I treated it like an absolute.
Yeah, you're right.
I flogged the guts.
Shattered his ass.
Yeah, I never did like.
Let's leave that bit about.
Yeah. Like,
always did the correct thing.
Always did the correct thing.
Unless you're on a private land, so like an aircraft runway or something.
100%. And it was great. I just invested a lot of time into it, and when the perspective of that time for me changed, I then sold it and got a different bike because I get very emotionally invested in these things. Like even my DRZ, I got very emotionally invested in. I did it up like semi-adventure spec. Like I took everything off it that didn't need to be there, and then when I redid all the electronics of it, I made it all modern. Like I put in modern LED dash and then all the like seamless indicators in the bar buses, so they were sort of like not there but there. All LED tail tidy. Sort of took this old clapped out DRZ, cleaned it up, full stainless exhaust, just modernized it. Did the same thing with the Sportster. I tried to something different about having this really old clapped out bike that somehow has like electronic everything. It's kind of wild. It's cool. So that's where the emotional investment gets into me. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing with my old diamond now.
Mate, look at you talking to I get it.
Yeah, 100%.
I have unreasonable emotional investment in my business.
Yeah, it's money. Anyone who says they make money off like buying vehicles, doing not selling them, is either a complete con artist or like, which are both bad things.
I think everybody that does them up well, I think there's a difference. You can do like a thing at price, and buy them cheap and then just drop it off. But if you do it properly, and you do it beautifully, the time investment there and the money investment.
It's always blown my mind when you see hot rod guys making money because that one they bought this really old car that was probably not in great condition. They've chromed it out, done all these crazy engine bits on it, mints on it after, and they somehow still make money off it. I was like, how?
That's why that's $300,000 for us.
I know, it's insane.
You're gonna charge
and that's not a vehicle, that's a work of art.
No, it's a work of art. And I've always looked at it the same way. I look at because anything that exists, someone designed it. And I love that. I love, the beauty in things as you look around and you go, that was somebody's idea and they drew that and then they got it made and that thing had to be brought into existence. And it's, it's the stuff I dig about, cars and technology, all the things that I'm like fairly obsessed with are because I look at them and to me they are beautiful.
And look at like old resto jobs and cruises and stuff. You would see it every day on like
All the
Instagram.
time.
That's insane that people are taking like something that was like a safari car and completely redone the interior, completely redone all the electronics. So that way it's like all the modern comforts in this old clapped out car is amazing.
That's because we don't see that it's not just nuts and bolts. To us,
it's almost like a living breathing thing.
It was like a living breathing thing. It has a soul. Feel it, talk to it. When you ride or drive something you are connected with, you can feel it. Like I can always go, that left tire feels like it's okay, now I can feel that traffic just right. I know that I'm going right and green. And I can feel that in stuff that I ride or drive. And I can feel when it's not right.
100%. My mechanics like that. Shout out to City Cycles. My mechanic, John, specifically, he grew up in a primary of like carving bikes sort of thing. He knows everything about everything when it comes to carving, right? And he sees that in every vehicle. He doesn't judge. Like he sees someone's project come in and he's just like, he's sort of like a motorcycle vet. Like he looks at it and sees it as like a living thing, and he's passionate about educating his customers. Like he's taught me a heap of my old time. That thing's sort of been a project that me and him have worked on together. We found so many sketchy things in it. He's just like, don't worry, we'll fix it. This is doing this because of this. This is doing this because of this. If we change these things, it'll run better here, and then we'll just tidy up these things here, and it'll be great. We've found so many things in this old bike that we've worked on together, and that's like a valuable time spent because I can see the passion he has for taking care of these things and like fixing them, and it's really sort of comforting to know that the mechanic genuinely gives a shit.
And they're not always easy people to find. I've got two fellows that help me. Sean specifically helps me with my Land Cruiser. Yeah, like he has just made that car his own, and he, whenever I need anything done, he just gets it done.
It comes back to that level of ownership. Like you stop drawing the line of it being money. You take away money being an issue. You start investing in it. You want this thing to run because you enjoy it. You want this thing to run because when you drive it, you feel like you could do anything.
You smile from here.
Exactly. So
I've got to like the other dude that I work with, Christian. He does a shop on the side. That's what I just work. And he's the dude that when I said to him, turn that shop full flower. He's like, yeah, man, I'll help you. Because I was like, I want to do it myself. I say myself in like not to air quotes, because I'm not talented enough to do that. I don't know anything.
I always try.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll help you. And so, like, lets me use his shop, shows me what to do, but then goes, right, mate, now you're on your own. And, having to drill through the car, like having to drill through the chassis to put the intercooler pipe.
Yeah, lawn does the same thing.
Yeah, oh man. And, like, I had to relocate the battery from the front to the back. And I'm like, man, that is such a dick of a job. Like, that took 8 hours to, like, run some wire from the front to the back and set that up. And, like, he's teaching me about, like, nut certs and stuff.
Oh, wiring's insane. Don't get me started.
And then I've always, like, my whole life, I wanted to learn to weld, but I never had the opportunity. And I said to Christian, I'm like, because he's a very talented TIG welder. And I'm like, dude, will you show me? Will you teach me? And I went and bought my helmet and stuff. And then he showed me how to TIG weld. And he's like, all right, Chief, now it's your turn. And we built a stainless steel exhaust for my Falcon, which is like wildly expensive.
Yeah, don't get me started.
And we've like hand tigged it. And I've actually done, you can tell which TIG welds are mine, the ones that are very messy. But, he helped me to do that to the point where now I own a welder, and I've actually done my own welding at home and recently made my own Perilla and stuff.
Welding is a thing.
Oh, man.
Welding.
That's an art all by itself.
100%. Like, I lived with a boiler maker for a long time, and he's still like one of my best friends today. And he is such a rough, savage, just brutal man. But when you watch him work and you see, like, because I get Snapchats and Instagram stories all the time with what he welds and where he welds and how he welds the lines and whatever else, it's kind of elegant. Like, he looks like he's covered in shit 8 times out of the day, but like, you see him like take this really fine point and perfectly merge it in like a dead straight line, and you got to remember they're only seeing through like this much, pretty much like a 20-cent piece by like 100 mil. That's all we can see. And they get these perfectly elegant lines. It's insane.
But like, and you're in gloves, and you're covered up, and you're overheating, and you've got your feed wire in one hand, your TIG torch in the other. You're literally nuking it with electricity. You're pumping it through that. So like this, learning how to arc them.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. It's hot. It's unpleasant. And under those revolving conditions, like welding uphill or upside down, and all these things that they do,
or in the bottom of a goddamn tunnel, like 20, 30 feet underground,
and they are meticulous, spot after spot after spot. And I'm like, oh, there's something about.
You can watch it all day,
and that really appeals to the perfectionist.
Do you know what I like watching? Pipe bending. Have you ever seen like?
I used to want to buy pipe benders, because I can weld now. Like,
you see people like bend pipes for like bull bars and exhausts and stuff. That shit's incredible.
Oh, I'm sad I've been looking for one. Just a really basic one, so that I can make different shapes.
But it's cool because you see this like straight rod go through this machine that like turns it, bends it one way, then turns it, bends it the other way, and does all this other stuff. And then you see the end product, and it's like, oh shit, that was like a
metalwork.
It's
such an art. Like what are they called? The wheels. That they used to put a curve in a flat piece of metal and how they shape panels on vehicles.
Yeah, it's insane.
All that stuff like that. The artistry in that is just that stuff blows my mind.
I have a crazy uncle, and he's retired due to injury, and all he does all day is watch like that channel on Fox where it's like just making shit, and he just does all these crazy things in his yard. Like, he built a life-size statue of Predator out of metal. He's redone all these crazy things in his yard, and it's all nuts. Like, oh, for petrol, I don't care what I do. Just make shit away.
It's so cool, mate. He's living great. Yeah,
oh, he is living great. I haven't heard from him in a few years, but like he's like Sue Bowles, really good at contact people.
No, just making stuff.
He just makes stuff. Like, I came home and he's dressed like a because back when I was working at that ME, like, that was down in Illinois. He lives down that way, so I stayed at his place when I worked there. And I came home one day, and he's dressed like a cowboy and shit. I'm like, dude, what are you doing, Joe? What's going on there? He was like, oh, just make a replica pistol beam. And I was like, what?
Allegedly.
And I was like, what do you mean making a pistol? He's just like, oh, it's not going to fire anything. It's just going to rotate. I just wanted to make something that like clicked and rotated. I'm just like, dude, and out of steel and wood, he's made a legit like Smith and Wesson pistol. It didn't fire. Like it could not fire.
Non-working.
Yeah, completely non-working replica, but it looked so legit.
That's so cool.
So it was insane. The stuff he could make was.
Is that on your dad's side of the family as well?
I think he's like one of those unofficial uncles. I don't think he's directly related to my dad.
I was sort of trying to figure out if the artistry went out.
No, he was just Uncle Joe's a good musician's character.
Legend. Now we were chatting Jetpilot. Let's jump back to Jetpilot because I'm pretty keen to know a little bit more about it.
So
like working for surf brands. Like I thought that was when I was interviewing you to do some work for me. Those were the things that stood out to me because I was like, oh, if you work for a commercial surf brand, you'll get it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call them a surf brand. They're sort of like
they're motocross. Huh?
They were
water now, isn't it? Sorry, I looked
they do
up.
wakeboarding.
Yeah,
but they're modern sort of audiences for workwear coming back to the thing that tradies are heroes in Australia.
Oh, that's also a big it's a craft market.
So they decided to throw their hat in their ring, and they're killing it. They're doing a really good job.
That's cool.
So like I just reached out to my friends that work there still for my new job. I needed workwear, so I hit them up and was like, hey, can I get some gear? And so I would highly recommend the gear. Yeah, Jetpilot was interesting. So the boss of Jetpilot,
it's all right. Yeah, I saw you were rolling out the wires.
The owner of Jetpilot is a really cool guy. I still talk to him every now and again today, and he's a huge art lover, so he has all the time in the world for creatives. And him and the creative sort of director there were the real reason, like another part of the reason I'm who I am now. And I took the skills I learned from Steve and applied them under the encouragement of those two. And they were just like, you wouldn't be here if you didn't do a good job. So just try and communicate that. So I took the skills from MC Holdings and applied it to what I was doing every day. And I started actually doing these little A4 watercolor cutouts because I've always loved tattooing. And I met a guy skateboarding who's just like, well, if you love tattooing but you don't want to do it because it's a rabbit hole career, you should try painting it with watercolor. It's like almost the closest thing you're going to get to it. And I think you'll do really well because you'll enjoy it. So I started doing that in my free time outside of working with Jetpilot, and I was learning heaps of illustrative skills off the guys that worked there. I applied it to my painting, and then I applied the skills on the motorcycle holdings to promote it. And I did these cool little Harley engine. They were only like little postcard size paintings. And I did every generation of V-twin from like Knuckle to Shovel to Evo, then Twin Cam, then the modern Milwaukee 8. It was like a set, right? And I put them on this website called Etsy, if you've heard of it. I literally made them live, promoted them on my Instagram, went to the bathroom, came back, and it was like, I was just like, what? I didn't sell for much. I sold them for like, I think they were like $15 each. I was just like, what? No way. So I just kept doing that stuff. Like I kept trying different things, and then I was promoting my illustration a heap, and then eventually people outside of that business were picking me up to do illustrations for them. I helped friends develop their apparel brands at the time because I had a hookup at a printed down in Burley Way, and I just developed the knowledge I needed to help people with developing these things. And that time working also continually helped me develop my illustration skills and all these other things. And it sort of just made me who I am today. And yeah, without what I was shown at MC Eldings and the encouragement I got at Jetpilot, I don't think I would be the artist illustrator that I am today. And when it comes and it's at Jetpilot that I learned and developed the mentality of luck doesn't exist. And in my time at Jetpilot, not only did I further grow my skill set as an illustrator, but I also, picked up mural painting. Like I had my printer come to me and was like, I want you to make my staircase. There's this big flower with a banner and it has my logo on it. Like, sweet, yeah, I can do that. No worries. Never done one before in my life. Guess what? It looks pretty damn good. She's stoked. And I credit, I was thankful it turned out okay too, because I was obviously super anxious that I wasn't going to get enough. And she loves it. I think it looks good too. So everyone won. I got the opportunity to paint a skateboard for a men's mental health expo there for a design studio down in the coast called Penny Bridge. And I painted a board for them, and it was all to do with raising awareness on men's mental health. It was a super rad event. I went right for that. And that was interesting. I kind of shafted the other artists there on the night because I played the owner of the Jetpilot business against his wife, who they're both art people. So I go up to Daniel and say, Dad, who's the owner of Jetpilot? So, Dad, you association my door is like a gift. You're going to forget it. He said, just between myself and then I'll tell her that I saw you do it. And secondly, that I went to his missus and said the same thing, and I had them sort of bidding against each other. And so the bid for my board actually got really high. And out of so I would say I've only been freelancing for 3 years, and during that time it was probably about a year and a half. So a year and a half, I was put in a room against all these big artists down the Gold Coast. Some of them were huge. Some of them were like Kyle Tillman, which he's a huge mural artist in the Queensland area. He is phenomenal. And a friend of mine, Phil Illustrations, who was an ex-Jetpilot worker, his illustration level was next level. He's really a hero of mine. So to be in the same expo as one of my heroes, it's amazing. And credit to Phil Illustration, he looks like Jeffrey Dahmer, and he's sort of I met him at the same time I started watching that. So yeah, it's kind of sweet. But he's a legend. All these incredible artists, amongst Daniels, and my board actually did really well. I was probably one of the least known people in that expedition. I think my board in 20 of these incredible artists placed in the top 5. So on the first go, and that's not me beating my chest enough.
Man, you hustled that.
I did hustle. I did hustle it, but the fact that it still did that well is a really proud moment for me.
Well, it speaks to your talent and your artistry, and also the talent you are.
Yeah, and then a couple of months after that, I run into my old teacher at TAFE, just online. He messaged me about something. Hey, you still in communications with TAFE? Because I loved my time there. It was one of the best moments of my life, was being at TAFE. He was just we started talking. He just I'd love to be one of those dudes that came in when I was there to talk to the students now and give them not a more brutal introduction, but a more real introduction as to what the industry is and what you should do. And he was just yeah, I can call some people, see if I can happen. Sure as shit, a week or so later, I got a phone interview with one of the teachers there. They're just yeah, I'd love to have you come in after that call. And they're just what would you like to present to the students? I quickly thought in my head, I'd like to give them an overview of my career path. Every mistake, every achievement, every goal kicked. And then after that, I want to give them a breakdown of how to control a client job, which is the skills that Steve's in. And that's what I want to show them. I want to show them. I want to hopefully give them enough confidence that they can, like, if they're friends with the local cafe or whatever, they can go to your brand and have complete control and confidence over that job, which I like to think I achieved, but it was still really humbling to go back to the same classroom where I was taught how to do my job in and show this face, like this room full of faces I don't know. This is where I fucked up. This is where I did really well. This is what I'm doing now. If you guys want to be better than me, these are the things that I think you should know, that you should take away from my time showing you guys, so that when someone hits you up, you don't freak out like I did. You've got control over the job, you get money in the bank before you start the job, and then you finish the job off with that. And I think I did a decent enough job. I can teach this sort of stuff. And that was all within my sort of 2 years of Jetpilot. With knowledge and encouragement, I was able to take myself to essentially where I am now, which is like a semi worth mentioning freelance artist, I guess. Freelance artist, designer, illustrator. But it's like that conversation I had with you when I first met. I'd rather have good clients that pay the rate that I want for my job, that I'm going to like doing the job, than having a heap of work come in where I can work for myself completely. So stuff. Yes, I do want to work for myself solely doing this. That'd be the dream. But if it takes me 5 years to do it, 10 years to do it, that's okay. I'm not putting that pressure on myself that I have to be success, because I'd rather just do what I do good and have control over what I do. And since I have that mentality, yeah, I've had clients come to me that have, like I did a logo recently for a client. They went super sold on it. And I said, well, you've paid me my deposit. This is like to cover me should you cancel. You can come back to me anytime for amendments. That's fine. You won't get an additional charge. I'll just ask you to finalize the reports for the job's done. And they're just like, yeah, we'll just mull it over for a few weeks and be back to you. So, no problem. It's no problem. Let's wind back the clock back to like maybe it's a beach. That would have been the end of the world. Okay, so that's how it's been. So, wow, that makes me feel so. Yeah, and then eventually, like, Johnny introduced me to you, and I went for a dream, and it's really rad. And you've seen the process in which I handle it. At not one point did you feel like I was unsure or in control of it. And that to customers is a picture.
Do you know the hardest part? And this is interesting. It's interesting listening to you say this. On our first job together, you were really you were expecting. I think you were expecting me to make more changes. Is my very specific recollection of it, because as much as you were testing me, I was testing you, and I think you came back to me like 2 or 3 times. You go, "Oh, so anything you want to change? Sure." You're really making sure I was okay with it. Whereas interestingly, what I was looking for someone who could just lean into their own talent, and I'd just give you a direction, and then say, you make what resonates with you, because that's what I want. Because I've looked at your work, I've spoken to you, I've got the style, I got together, I resonate with it. And the thing I was looking for from you specifically was your flair in that. And that was the thing that I was looking to unlock. And I found that I think we've really only cracked it on this last job that we've just delivered today, which was one that we've done. It's called First Night Fever. And that piece of artwork to me is that you took an idea, and you took a pitch, and you've taken it even better than I could imagine. Like the one that you wear now, like it's so cool. Like I just think it's so, I personally think it's so cool. But when I look at the evolution of the work that you've done before, and I look at, what you're, I guess trying to, make me happy as a customer, what I want is for you to be happy as an artist, to look at the piece of work that you've made. Okay, this is the best thing. At this moment in time, today, this is the culmination of all my skills. This is everything that I can bring to you. So but and you've done that, and I've watched that as our working relationship has unfolded. Because the other thing I've discovered from working with creatives is, in particular, if you get it, you might not get it on the first time, but what you've got to do is you've got to do something 10 times, and by the 10th time,
yeah, it's developing that level of communication, because and that comes down to qualifying your customer, right? So that entire time in the first job, I don't know you, and I don't know your wants and needs and how you communicate feedback and stuff like that. So I played it really close to my processes, which is sketch, ask for feedback, ask for the amendments if they have any, really make sure that they have any. Same thing on what I like to call the outline, this refined sketch, the digital one. Same thing. Reassure the customer, are you happy with this? Make sure you don't want any amendments. All right, cool. I'll proceed to the next stage. And then the final pitch. And usually if you get 2 yeses in a row, you guarantee a third. It's only very rarely where I've pitched someone like the sort of fully finished creative that I've had like amendments that were anything major past like change this color. And it comes down to having control of the job. And you do that with qualifying the customer, meeting their needs, making sure that you follow who, what, when, where, and whys into like even further. Like there's business why, there's business how, all this sort of stuff. And that's another layer to that cake. Usually, if you answer these questions, you yourself can answer these ones as the other, which then produces the result. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
So it's a lot of work, and I only know this through experience and watching other people do it. But yeah, so if you know people that are willing to teach you that stuff. So the business why stuff I actually refined to Jetpilot, because the Dags, that's his name, it's what they call him. Owner of that business is all about the business why part of things. So when you listen to him talk about things, try to pay attention. Well, at least I did, because even though he was a really laid back and sometimes, cracked more jokes than he should have, when it came to asking him about questions business related, and he could tell that you were asking him a serious question, he gave you a serious, educated answer in a friendly way, so you always paid attention to it. So I owe him about as much time as I owe Steve, really.
Sounds like it. It actually sounds like you've got some pretty good mentors in your life. Like you've earned them, you've worked through it.
I have. I've had good mentors, and I've had double the amount of shit mentors as well, because there's a lot of bosses out there. There's fucking leaders though, and you'll learn more from a leader than you will from a boss. And that's just, I know that's not like a cliche mentality, but it's true. Like there's a lot of leaders out there. There's a lot of leaders out there that don't end up in leadership roles, and that's the scary part. But there's millions of bosses. There's always a boss. And what defines a good boss is, are they a good
leader?
Which is where I've somehow managed to end up in the role I am in now, which I start tomorrow, which is pretty wild.
And this is pretty rad. I'd love to, if you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm actually like stepping away from like an office job. I'm actually going into a sort of trade role. I'm becoming technically a painter tomorrow, and it's a fucking weird story. So the guy I worked with Yatla, right, Doon Yang, ran a little creative, like an online services agency in Yatla, you know, me and him always got along because there was never a problem. It was always super chill. His brothers are the same, and there was never an issue that was too big. You know, everything was mellow. When I turned to him and came to the point in my life where I was like, hey, I'm going to start with a full-time job because I get the business can't provide me with the hours. He was like, no, it's fine. Totally understand it. You got to look after you. I'm like, cool, sweet, well, but I don't want to leave the fucking help. Because I love it here. I love working for you because you're a rad dude. He's just like, no, I get it. I've seen it. Like, I worked in plenty of jobs. Like, it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So when I eventually got a full-time job down at that wheel and deal, pump it out agency, he actually turned to me and was just like, because we're looking at changing shit up here in a few years, and I don't actually have a lot of pipeline in mind if I just send you the work I need after hours and work for a little bit over staff rate. Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. And he was like one of my first freelance clients, and I worked for him for years after that, like on and off doing his clients' work, and then worked for him personally. So he actually had a really tragic family issue. His mom got really sick, and he was the only thing that could ease that pain was like medicinal oils and stuff like that. So he couldn't get a hold of that because it was illegal. And she eventually passed away. It was really tragic because he's super family oriented. Like every business he started with his brother. That's how tight they are. So he ended up packing shit up, moving to Colorado, and starting like a medicinal hemp factory in Colorado, which was insane. Like he just dropped everything and did it. And I was just like, what? I don't even want to know how you got that sorted. And I helped him develop that brand, and develop the website for that, and build that up. And then he built that up, obviously, to a point where it's sustainable. And then, obviously, because all this family was over here, it was his family, so I believe he sold that business and then came back over here and started his now commercial and residential painting business with his brother and one of his childhood best mates. And I helped him develop the logo for that and develop the website for that and build that brand up. And now it's grown and gotten really successful. And he randomly hit me up one day, and I wasn't really stoked at where I was at, which wasn't Jetpilot, by the way. It was like a job I got in between. He hit me up, and it was just like, looking for work, knows what they're doing with the paintbrush. Yeah, man, I know what I'm doing, and I'm looking for a job. I'd love to work for you again. What's up? He's just like, oh, yeah, I'll talk to the guys. And talk to the guys, and he's like, yeah, there's some the parties that don't know you just want to meet you first and then ask you a few questions. Is that cool? I'm like, yeah, of course it's cool. There, it turns out his business partner's his goddamn cousin. So like it's super family run, and his cousin's was like, yeah, we'll get the paperwork. You just need to get a white card and work for us and we'll train you up, mate. It's all good. It's like, I can't believe that just happened.
Life is crazy.
It's insane, and I'm super grateful for that because I've always wanted to work for that guy full time because I know the way he does everything by the book, but he's a good leader. So I straight away know going into this role that I'm going to have no dramas because I know if there's going to be a problem, I can raise that problem with him, and as a team, we'll come to a solution instead of and that's what a leader does. A leader evaluates the situation, works out the best outcome for all parties involved, and then makes a decision. Whereas a boss will just make a decision, and usually it's a decision based on what's best for production, which is not always the best decision, in my personal opinion. But I don't run a business, so I guess there's a lot of people like that say, this guy doesn't know what you do, which is also very nice.
That's okay. We've all got slightly different flavours.
Exactly. So I'm actually super excited because I'll be starting with Sparrow Fart, finishing just after lunchtime, which is rad. I've never experienced that in my life. And it's going to be with people that I know are going to be really friendly, really approachable, and I'm not going to have any of these sort of like issues that these corporate jobs have. Which I'm not saying nobody should work for corporate business.
It's just like your place.
I think I've come to the conclusion that maybe it's just the best fit for me personally.
And man, if somebody told me this a long time ago, they said, yeah, your 20s is about what you know and figuring out what you don't want to do. Your 30s is capitalising on that, and everything past that's just for you.
100%. And I always try to leave things as best off as I can. I'm not the type of dude where he leaves a job and like, okay, I'm leaving anyway. I'm always like, I gotta get as much done as I can. So that like these guys can go maybe a month or two without me and have zero problems. And it's just that, because that's how I'd like to be left.
That's it. Do the right thing even when people aren't. When people aren't watching, you still do the right thing. Like you just good things happen.
Exactly. Like that. Exactly. Good things happen to good people, and I adamantly believe that. And believe it or not, Boone was the one that told me that for the first time.
I fucking swear by it.
So,
my life's incredible. I swear that it's because I always do the right thing by people, even on the occasion where it's made.
Yeah, I've always tried to live that way as best I can. There's been times where I've gotten overly emotionally invested in stuff and I act like a bit of a dick and I get all sort of worked up. That's human.
Man, that's just human.
Post that fact, I always try to make amends for it. And
that's it, being able to apologise and say that you were wrong.
And it's a fine line. I think a lot of people today get caught up in political correctness to a degree, and there's a lot of like social correctness and all sorts of these sort of things. When it comes down to the end of the day, I think it's probably better not to worry about that stuff too much and more focus on, if I do this, what will the consequences to the people around me be? And then ask what will the consequences to me directly, and then make a decision based on that. Because I think people these days is too focused on seeing themselves in the eyes of others too much, and it sounds kind of lonely.
It is, and projecting your own thoughts and feelings and all that sort of stuff. That's great. And congratulations to anybody who thinks that that's the way to go. But I have a very similar mentality where, like, you've got to. And again, mate, I got this pretty wrong before I figured it out. I used to do basically all of it wrong. But I have slowly come to appreciate. I did this super wrong for a very long time. But how important, my wife is, how important my son is, how important my mum and dad is, how important my brothers are, like how important the community that I live in, how important the people are, my neighbours, my friends, my suburb. I never appreciated all this stuff, and I didn't get it because I was so selfish because of, the things that I was programmed to believe.
Yeah, and it's just, I have these conversations with people all the time. And let's take this my house thing. Like, yes, a house is an excellent investment. It is. You can buy, it's not like a vehicle. You buy a house, it goes up in value. You buy a vehicle, it goes down in value. Unless you buy a really, really cool vehicle. All right? And people seem to get this fixation that if they don't buy a house, they're not going to succeed in life. It's just like going back to high school. You're not going to go to uni yet. You're going to lose. No, untrue. Like, depending on your situation and depending where you choose to live and stuff like that, more often than not, renting is cheaper. Yes, renting is dead money. That much is true. But let's say you're a couple that doesn't want to have kids. Let's say you're a couple that can't have kids. Is running yourself mad into a 30-year debt over a house really the best financial decision for you? Maybe not, depending on your working situation.
I'm pretty down with tiny homes. I actually think that stuff's really cool.
Yeah, tiny homes is rad. I really like shipping container houses when they redo them to be like super modern on the inside. That shit's fucking awesome.
And that stuff is wicked, mate.
But it's a horses for courses thing.
It is, mate. You got to do it your way.
Exactly. And personally, I think people out there that think they have to buy a house and they're forced to buy a house, it's because that's what they're being told by their parents. And their parents were told by their parents to do the same thing. Which nowadays, with the amount of flexibility and the amount of options that people have available, it's not always the be all end all decision.
But also, you can do it at any time.
Yeah, you can do it whenever you want. You don't have to do it in your 20s and be financially trapped down to a place for the next 10, 15 years.
Because it does change your lifestyle. I was actually 28 when my wife and I bought our place. A place that we lived just near. And like, it financially crippled us for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
It's like
it's come good now, 15 years later. But man, that's a pretty long. 15 years is a
long time.
Long time.
And most people, they buy these new build houses and these spit in the middle of nowhere places, and then they just end up selling them 7 years later, or inside of 7 years. And then they buy another one or another place, and they'll just hitting resets.
No,
I don't know about you, but that sounds really stressful and tiring. But that's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that my way of thinking is dead set correct, right?
But this is the joy. You don't have this is the beautiful part of life. That you don't have to agree on things.
Exactly. And I think too many people don't see the fact that there are options versus one way of thinking.
Totally.
Like, to me, and this is another quote that I got from another punk band, thinking like everyone else is not really thinking.
The group thing.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pack leader.
Yeah. Whereas all the great people, as far as I'm concerned, and I guess I self-identify as a little bit unhinged, I like that. I don't like that. Like that, and that's what I like in my friends, is I love people that are just, mate, they're a bit out there, they're like super obsessed about whatever it is that they do. But like all my best friends are just almost on another planet.
Dude,
I love it.
Dude, I know a guy that he lives out in Ipswich way, and he's had it kind of rough with like an ex-partner and stuff like that. But whenever he got down, he just bought another motorcycle, and he would just chop it, change it, do it up, sell it. He made it a passion, and I feel like he was escaping from sometimes the challenging parts of reality through doing that. And I really respected him for that. He to most people seemed really unhinged, but I'm just like, he's just got a different coping mechanisms to everyone else.
But he's also an artist. You recognise the art.
100%. He would take, God, like there's like some bike builds you just don't do. Like he would take a diner, so something that looks like mine. He's just like, I'm gonna turn this into a chopper. What? Like, that's something you don't do. That's usually something you do with like a sports car. Old sports cars. The end result was still sick.
Of course it was, because you can see the vision.
So, like, at first I thought, you're crazy. But he wasn't. He was just looking at it different.
And it's quite funny. I actually have trouble sometimes explaining my vision of things. And I do this to my wife all the time. I'm like, I've got this crazy idea. And she's like, oh, yeah. Like, one of the things I wanted to do was like build a putting green. And like, if I had have explained to her what I was trying to do, she would have been like, what is wrong with you? So instead of asking permission, I just did it. And like,
forgiveness rather than
permission. Because I can't explain it. I actually really struggle to verbalize some of my ideas.
I'm imagining something that looked actually really fancy.
I do.
a like proper like
show you some
schmick.
photos. But like I went all the way down that rabbit hole. And I found like a 1950s Scott Bonner and stripped it. There's a like
Because in my opinion, if you're gonna do a putting green like in the middle of your backyard, it's got to look like prime.
yeah, man. Oh look, it is.
Because if you don't do it, it's gonna look sketchy.
Yeah, I'll show you some photos. And you know, when online, I found like the company that golf like makes the things, and you know, it's like a proper golf course hole and flag, and like put all the stuff for it. And
That's sick.
Worked on it for like 2 years, and got it perfect in like USGS and flat. I spent like $2,000 over those 2 years.
So it's got like proper grass. It's not like AstroTurf.
No, man, proper grass.
So you got to like mow it, maintain it, and everything.
Spray it, like all the things. I do. I even do the what's the one called, the coring. I do that in October. I run a full 12 months maintenance plan.
That actually sounds like a really fun like maintenance thing.
Yeah,
it's like because do you enjoy cleaning your cruiser?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I used to enjoy washing cars, like my years ago, but now I'm just tired.
Like
so.
I love cleaning my bikes. And I love doing the maintenance parts of that because it's like a little chore that you take a little bit of pride in. That's what maintaining this pitching.
I used to, and I used to spend a heap of time, like not even like I'd borrow a mate's bike, and they always knew if they loaned it to me for the weekend, it would come back looking 10 times better because I would like cut and polish it, layer it, and I would hand polish the chrome.
Let's see, borrowing a mate's bike, that's an intimate thing.
It is an intimate thing.
That's a very intimate thing.
But people know that if you let me borrow your bike, it will always come back with a full tank of fuel and look better than when you dropped it off.
I'd probably.
So people actually were pretty happy to loan me a bike.
I probably wouldn't detail it to that level. I would definitely like give it a quick clean and definitely return it with a full tank. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah, like return stuff with like a shine.
Because it's not like borrowing a car, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have a prang in a car and insurance in a car.
Yeah.
Whereas you have a decent prang on a bike, not only is the bike more than likely completely destroyed, but you could get seriously hurt as well. Yeah. So the fact that someone's let you borrow something that could very easily get completely destroyed is a totally intimate thing.
Very intimate.
Yeah, you don't really do that.
No.
I mean, there's people out there that I would happily let borrow my dyno, and all I'd probably ask is like just return it full gas so I don't have to pay that ridiculous $2.40 litre for 98. You know.
See, this was before I had the money to buy my own bike, so I didn't own a bike.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ride. I desperately wanted to ride. So like if I could, repay the favour by making the bike look. One of my buddies went to Europe and he loaned me his, Chris loaned me his Honda Shadow 750. And so they're like a Harley style.
Yeah, I don't know what a Shadow is.
Bike. And that was actually the bike that allowed me to get confident riding.
A great bike.
Yeah, great bike.
Stop going really hard.
Very hard to overtake. Once you're at 100, you can't do 101 unless you're like downhill with the tail.
So it's very restricted.
Very restricted. Like the 750 has no great off the line, like ton of torque, but then like your curve just collapses, your power curve just collapses. And that was actually probably the only reason I would have bought one, except for the fact that we're on a freeway and it's 110. If you need to like overtake or something,
it's not happening.
Man, it's not happening. Like you just got to sit there, and it felt really scary. And something I've learned, particularly freeway riding, is to try and push you to sort of stay ahead of traffic. And I couldn't do that on that bike to put myself in a position where I was safe. I would often find myself in a position where I felt exposed.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That was very nerve-wracking. So once I could ride a bike and get a bike that had some corners, I then felt I could take control of the situation.
This is where I was kind of really glad I learned on a dirt bike.
Yeah.
So a DRZ is like a trials enduro bike, as you know, that's what people are doing. It's like a larger, slower dirt bike, right? And it's road legal, but it's just as narrow as one. It's larger, but it's just as narrow, and the controls are like right underneath you and just in front of you. So it's in the prime sort of reaction time sort of areas, and man, you could split lanes in that thing so fine, and you'd have so much room. like it was insane. And the sports was the same actually. Sports was really narrow, they're the same. So I always like me lane splitting out comfortable as I'm more comfortable lane splitting than almost anywhere else. And I've had people like on the diner, I've you know been nearly bumped into in the mirrors. I've had someone merge into me and I'm still fine. Like whatever. Like you just develop up a little bit. But it's that thing. You're that exposed that something can go wrong at any time. And you've got to be aware. So yeah, the way you put it, then the exposure can sometimes overwhelm you.
Oh man, the risk. And somebody told me, and they said, when you're watching the cars around you, what do you look at? And my first thing is, I watch their head, don't wait for them to look.
No, you look at the wheel.
Man, watch those front wheels. And I never noticed it before I started riding. That people flying over their head, they would turn the tyres the direction that they're going ever so slightly towards where they're looking to go. And I was like, oh man, that's wild. And like this stuff makes you a better driver as well, because I'd never in my whole life paid attention to where the front wheels of a car in another lane would be. And once I saw that, again, it's maybe glass shatters and I can see it.
Yeah, they taught me that in my motorcycle course. They're just like, what do you think indicates to you as a motor vehicle's going to take first? And people, did the correct answer logically. They say, oh, that's the indicator. Then people look for the tires. They're just like, no, it's actually the opposite. And it's the tires will turn first, then they'll look, and then they'll think about indicating. And I catch myself out for when I drive too.
Totally.
Because you just
forget.
You do, because it becomes instinctual.
And driving requires very little.
100%.
In a modern car, you only need to be like 10% there to drive.
Oh, 100%. That's it's kind of wrong that it's like that, but it's true.
It's true. And that's why, whereas on a motorcycle, mate, if you're only 10% there, mate, you're going to die.
Yeah, 100%. I don't fully agree with the people that preach our pipes save lives. But don't you think you can do a better job of protecting yourself if you're just more aware and less deafeningly loud?
Yes. And look, I get it. And it's primarily an awareness thing. And it's the same reason cyclists jump up and down and go, look out for us. Motorcyclists just aren't as good at saying that out loud. Instead of saying, give us a meter, give us wide berth, keep your distance, try not to drive over the tallness, or shoulder check.
100%.
We just go, pipes.
Loud pipes are loud. No,
because we want loud pipes.
Yeah. And look, they definitely help. They do definitely help.
Yeah.
But it's like the process that's half complete. You can complete that process by really checking your mirrors if you're running and paying attention to the subtle safety zones of the car. The blind spot of the car's like a triangle shape from just past the front driver door to the cab. So anywhere in that sort of facility, they can't see.
And if I'm on the 45 degree behind a car, I just assume they haven't seen me. And this is actually part of the reason. The first bike I ever owned, because my business partner Simon, who you met earlier, he had a Kawasaki Z1000.
Yes.
And he let me borrow that once I had my openings. And that bike was the first time I felt what it feels like when you pin the throttle. And the only thing I didn't like in it too is like when you push fast forward and everything just goes.
Yeah,
and the whole world, the tunnel vision.
Because at a certain speed, you can't process that much.
You can't process the information that's coming through. You can't process it at the speed that it's happening. And when I felt that the first time, I'm like, oh, holy, all right, I get it.
It's insane, right?
But I also didn't understand the finesse that you need for a 1,000cc bike and the finesse of the throttle. And, learning to use your brake to turn, which way, how to position the bike and how to make it, do all the things that you need a bike to do.
It comes down to rider education.
Yes.
Because you'll see like a good rider versus like someone who's just got their opens.
Yeah.
You give the good rider like a 650 sports bike, and you give the guy that's just gotten his opens to 1,000, it's going to win the 650 because the guy that's more seasoned, he's going to know the right level of acceleration, the right level of engine brake, when to properly engage the front brake versus the rear, the right angle of entry in the corner, the right entry angle of exit on the corner. Whereas the 1,000 guy, he's probably just like probably kind of freaking out because he's got this beast between his legs.
Mate, we're only good in a straight line.
He probably pinned it to off the line, which gave him a head start. But then when it comes to the corner, how do I slow down? How do I turn?
And look, I was mentioned that because I recorded that CVR 1100 Blackbird, which was the carbureted, and at that point in time was the fastest bike in the world.
Still would have been fun though.
Dude, that bike. And the other thing that it had, I thought it was hardware engineering. The engine in those, so they're a straight four, but the engine has a counterbalance crankshaft in it, and so that engine is hard bolted into the frame, so there is no vibration, like zero vibration, and the engine actually forms part of the strength of the chassis and actually helps pin it all together. And it's wild. I think they're 165 horsepower, which again,
at the time was insane.
At the time it was insane. I think you went to 2.8 or something. Like it's proper. It's proper fast. It's even today fast is the funny thing. Like it's a 90s carbureted bike.
That's still pretty quick for today. Because like here's the thing: when I was at Harley, that's when the year they introduced their electric bike, which is more like a sports bike.
Yes. And
the fastest it could go was 0 to 103.
Yeah.
So if you take that electric bike, which has one, no gears, it's fully automatic. Two, no lag time, uses electric, and three, more torque than you can poke a stick at because again it's electric against this 1100.
Yeah. 90s. And it's carbureted.
90s carbureted for all things, and it was. If we just go off if we were just going off the level of information we've just communicated, it's technically beating it by a second to half second to a second. That's insane.
And that was what was so cool about it. And I had Yoshi props on.
Of course, you Yoshi props on. And you just put a McCooney car.
And so it was nice. But it was one of those bikes that you could ride quite sedately, but when you like unleashed the fury, it just sounded like all hell breaking loose.
Like Tokyo Drift.
Sometimes I regret selling that bike. So I sold that.
Oh, you put the gold in that?
Yeah, so because I like more touring.
Yeah.
And that was part of the appeal of the Gold. So it was a sports tour.
Oh, that's the road so far.
Yeah. But then, I've got
nothing wrong with that, by the way. The thing's beautiful.
Mate, it's good. It's a 1988 design. It's got control vibes.
And Harley's refreshing that exact same look and vibe now for their 120th year anniversary. Anyone taking notes there?
Yeah.
Cough.
Is it post 2016 breakout? I've said this to you. This is my dream bike. I've never, because I've ridden basically everything that Harley makes, thanks to because I just love Harleys. I love the story, I love the sound, I love the big twin, I love old schools.
The aesthetic of them is very appealing.
But man, the first time I rode that breakout, I felt like for me before I was in the industry of bikes that I rode. And it just does all the things I want because I love that laid back. You've seen that. The foot position on my Gold when we
I get it.
Stretch out, but like it cups you. The seat just comes up and holds you.
Dude, you get a step up seat on that to lock you in place. You'll be fine.
And then you just snap the throttle on that. Like I've done a Nevo Glorious loop on breakout, and like I remember I pantsed a couple of sports bike riders. They clearly weren't very good sports bike riders in their defence, but I was shocked at how hard I could ride.
Because that bike is very powerful, very fast. Yeah. It's designed like a sort of like a drag cruiser for anyone who doesn't know what they look like. Yeah, the smooth bike guys should have been.
Yeah, they should have been, but man, I rode the ring off that thing. And what I love is because it's such a big bike, you really had to muscle it a bit, and so to tip it, like you really had to push it.
It doesn't help that it's got a rear tire wider than your head too.
Mate, the rear tire is wider than my whole rig. And it's just that's what I love about it. Like the thing is just sick, but like if you rode the pants off it, if you like fully pushed it and made it go really into it, like you could do it. And I was just blown away by how hard I rode this thing.
Oh, dude, it's cool. I like it when it's a very common build for them, but the big turbine wheels for them, they look sick. Yeah, it looks cool. Like I can bag them all day because they don't turn, they don't stop real good. But they ride really good. They ride really good. They run just as good, and they just look cool.
Yeah, they're the business.
Like there's, I cannot say they don't.
They look fast standing still, and to me, that's the measure of beautiful design.
Especially they've got this really cool like headlight that looks like from someone's eye.
Yes,
it's like all LED. It's
and
cool.
Then you've got that big raked front. So look, one day I'm just uncomfortable.
Oh, it's insane.
I'm not ready for that yet.
If it has this, right? We had two best mates come to Morgan Wackout one day, and they're both in the track suit. Like
Tracksuit too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they have money to throw around, and like me and one of the guys looking at it, yeah, they're buying breakouts. 100% they're buying breakouts. They bought like 60 grand breakouts, like both of them. Just threw big money at it, like, and it's fun. You go to if you went like to me at the end of the day, if they went in and they wanted something that they really wanted and they got it and they felt like they had a good experience and getting what they want, that's all that matters. It's all that matters to me is the customer experience.
And do you know what's crazy with it? Like, even my wife said to me, she's like, why don't we buy one? And I'm like, I just can't get my head around spending 30 grand on a bike.
It's insane.
I can't get my head around it.
It's insane. Because you can get something, like you could probably pick up that 1100cc sports bike now, like second hand.
Man, they're $5 grand.
Like
they're $5 grand. I'm buying something that does 0 to 100 in 2.9 seconds or 2.8 seconds, whatever it is, for $5
And you would never get that speed out of a breakout.
You can't get it either.
You would not get that speed out of a breakout.
Huge money at it. They'll
and to the point, and if you've made it that quick, it almost becomes dangerous.
Yeah, and see, my problem is like I pay $1,500 for my gear, I pay $1,000 for my Falcon, 15 grand. Like, yeah. I'm in for a deal.
I only paid 15 for that dyno.
But like, this is the thing. It's not that I don't see the value. It's just that I'm just a tight ass. Let's be honest.
It's okay on Tuesday.
I'm just a massive tight ass.
No,
I've had to work too hard for it, mate. Like, you work too hard for every dollar.
You spend it where it's needed, and on a depreciating asset like a vehicle, it doesn't make sense.
No, and I struggle. I just can't.
I mean, Harleys depreciate a lot slower than most because they got a badge on them. Yeah. But it still depreciates like anyone.
Again, we've spent a decade shopping the sales and buying the clothes from op shops, like going to Aldi and shopping the specials everywhere.
You appreciate it.
Man, you are grateful for every dollar. You appreciate every dollar. And actually, it was my accountant that said it to me. He said, the day will come when you'll be able to afford what you want, and you won't buy it because it's such a good reason. And I have had that experience now where I reached the point where I could buy something that I dreamt of forever. And I rang him up and I'm like, you bastard, I don't want the fucking thing. That's all I wanted for like the last 20 years.
Dude,
like, you fucking bastard.
It's a
I'm still angry at him.
It's a still gnarly catch 22. Like, I was like that in my early 20s for such a long time, because my mum taught me how to manage money really well. Like, this is probably the best thing she ever taught me was how to manage money. And for a long time, I just didn't spend it because I was just like, I don't need that. I can fix this and get the same result, or I can buy this cheaper and get the same result, And it saved me a lot of money in my early 20s. And then when I finally got into motorcycles and stuff, I was going through a point in my life where I was just like, you know what, I worked my ass off. I'm just gonna fucking throw it at the wall.
Send it.
I just threw it at the wall, and it came down to this phrase: I was financially stable, and then I was. But it's cool. It's sweet. It's
It is. Now, also, we've been chatting now for like a couple of hours. It's actually, I'm conscious of the time. Based on the time of day, I was just doing something. My dude, I want to say thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. This was like a goal I've wanted for ages, was to be on a podcast and share information and experience. Like I would always like, if there's designers listening, young designers or something, I would always like to make their lives easier if I can, because I would have loved that for me in my early development stage.
And Mitch, if people want to follow you, check out your art, check out what you do, where can they follow you around the internet?
Mostly through Instagram. It's menace.mitch on Instagram, and you can find me on most social platforms too, like I'm on YouTube as well, under pretty much the same heading, same on Twitter and Behance and other social channels. So, but if you see me on any of the social channels and just want to ask a question, I'm usually pretty on point all the time. And there's no such thing as a stupid question to me, so just reach out.
Awesome. So Menace Mitch, you can find him around the internet under that handle. Mitch Greenwood is the full name. But on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Buddy, thank you for joining me.
No, thanks for having me.
I'm going to play the outro, and hey, we'll catch you all next time. All right, we're done.
Dude, that was sick. Dude, it's incredible how clear you can hear like voices and stuff like that.